Welcome to ERT News. This is episode 24, and today we do have a special guest, but Anton, always great to see you. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well, and even better because we have a special guest and some things we've been working on that we're excited to share behind the
Absolutely.
scenes.
All right, today's topics, our special guest, we can reveal it is Mr. Tim Gacsy, one of our most popular guests that we've had on ERT News. So welcome back, Tim. Appreciate you being here. We'll also touch on the biggest takeaway challenges of last week to share takeaways. So let's jump right in.
To frame out why we asked him to join us today, we're going to be opening up the virtual family office tax planning process to Catalyst members. This had a huge impact on Q3 and Q4 for the members that participated. And we've got the systems and the team and the bandwidth now to go ahead and officially open it up. I know a number of people in October and November were like, how can I get access? So we're excited to introduce you to, first of all, what is the VFO tax planning process? And then to ask Tim to jump in, kind of walk you through from his perspective exactly what he and the team do to lead your clients through the tax planning process. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, why it's so powerful. So let's start here. What is the VFO tax planning? It's a way to leverage our Director of Advanced Tax Planning, Tim Gacsy. So essentially, you have access to an advanced tax planner, 25 plus years of experience in this space, where you can bring clients to the table that are motivated to mitigate their tax liability. It is a complete process from A to Z, meaning we will lead you through, and I'll show you what the process is at the end of this. We will lead you through step by step the process to input the information we need, get us the opportunity to build the tax plan, meet with you and your client, present the tax plan, sell the tax plan, send the agreements, have the invoices paid, lead them all the way through not only the planning, but the implementation process, which is by far the most important part of tax planning. Because if clients don't actually implement, then they don't get any of the savings they were promised. So the ideal clients are 500,000 or more of AGI or 100,000 of income tax liability or more. Now, there are some states, of course, like California or New York that have higher state income tax. So maybe if they're in a state that has a higher income tax, they might be able to do a little bit more for them with even a little bit of a lower AGI. But at the end of the day, when you're thinking about an ideal client, that's the target there. If we're looking at income tax planning, if we're looking at capital gains tax, ideally an asset that's a million or more. So to walk through how this worked in Q3 and Q4 of 2025, there's roughly $350,000 of tax planning fees that were collected. Those were tax planning fees presented by Tim Gacsy, supported by the VFO services team. They were spread out across 20 different clients, and those 20 clients were introduced by 12 members. So 12 different individual members, advisors and accountants, brought 20 clients to the table through the tax planning process. And if you do the math on that, we're trending well over $1 million for 2026 of tax planning fees. And the average tax planning fee in 2025 was just over $22,000 when Tim Gacsy was involved, and that was after we ran a test pilot. In addition to the tax planning revenue that I just quoted, so in addition to that $22,000 per tax planning engagement, there was also $17,000 that were generated by the implementation of the tax plan. So you have the tax planning fee for the intellectual capital and the architecture of the tax plan. Then when a client moves forward to the implementation, now we're going to the VFO specialist, we're generating revenue, and now there's additional VFO specialist revenue actually being delivered. At the end of the day, our goal with the clients is to save them a minimum of double their investment in the overall tax planning structure. So if it was 20,000 that somebody had to invest, then at the end of the day, they should be saving at least 40,000 in taxes. So the numbers here are good for everybody in terms of us and the members, and they're really good for the clients. So with that said, Mr. Tim Gacsy, can you walk us through the tax planning process that you use? Give us a little bit of behind the scenes of what it's like for you, and just kind of comment on the power perhaps of the partnership that we're rolling out here.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. So for the tax planning process, it is a five-step process. So step one is the diagnostic. That is, you're working with our proactive planning team and the advisor or the accountant. And that is where it's decided that tax planning priority is established with the client. It's a high priority for the client. When that is established, then we move to step two. That's the deep dive step. That's where I come in. I analyze the complex client financial data, and I surface high impact strategies. My ultimate goal is to deliver clear tax strategy insights. So, here it's a red light or green light, right? If we feel that we can't provide value, we'll say, we don't think it's a good fit. But more likely than not, it is a good fit. That's, we have the vetting process on the front end, and then that's where we do the deep dive. And so in the deep dive, that's where I utilize a multi-step framework. So how I utilize this framework is I first start with foundational strategies for immediate impact for the client. Then from there, I see where we're at in the savings and the steps and the compliance, and then I move and I progress to advanced strategies. And then ultimately, I build an optimized layer of tax savings, and that's deep dive stage. Then step three is the actual tax plan meeting, where we're meeting with the client, myself, and then either the advisor or the accountant. And then we deliver the tax plan. And this is where I show clients exactly how much they'll save with the fully customized presentation outlining the tax strategies. And this is tailored to their specific fact pattern. And with this tax plan meeting, we do have two options. So each client is different. Some like a detailed one-step meeting where we come in with full details, the exact strategy. We talk about tax code, technical details. And then we also have the two-step option. This is the client who likes to take things slower. So step one meeting would just be a brief overview, just kind of touching briefly on the strategies, giving an overview of the tax savings. And then if they like what they see and think this tax plan aligns, then that's when the second meeting would occur. And that's where we do the deep dive. We actually talk about the deep dive of the strategies, the specific savings, the tax code, etc. So that's tax step three. That's the tax plan meeting, right? We have an option A or an option B on that approach. Then we move to tax step four. The client thinks the tax plan makes sense. We'll move to the educate phase. This is where we do a deep dive education with the specialist. So the strategies the clients are interested in, we'll meet with the specific VFO specialist. The client will attend. We encourage them to bring all their advisors, whether that's their CPA, tax accountant, tax attorney, other financial advisors. We invite everybody to the meeting because we want everybody to be part of that, where everybody's educated, make sure it aligns with the client's goals. And then once everybody's aligned and in the educate phase and we think this is a fit, the client then decides they want to move forward. And if they do decide to move forward, that's when we move to step five, which is implementation. That's where we're actually working with the specialist. We're making sure we're aligning to the strategy. There's different tax code requirements, whether that's compliance, documentation, taking multiple steps, entity creation, retirement plan setups, etc. So, our team, we're still deeply involved. We're, working with the specialists, the client, the advisors. We're quarterbacking this whole thing to the finish line to make sure we're taking the proper steps to implementation to actually, take advantage of the tax deduction or the tax credit on the tax return. So that is our 5-step process for the tax planning.
Love it, my friend. And one of the things that I really like what you've done since we've rolled this out is you've really taken an approach of not just one or two strategies for a client, like we're selling a strategy, but rather you're layering multiple strategies. And you referenced it where you said you have a base of your kind of singles and doubles. Then you might have some more advanced strategies of triples and home runs. So from the tax plans I've seen, it's not uncommon for you to have 4, 5 plus strategies for one client, from the simplest to the most complex. And even on the simple ones, you're still providing tremendous value in these checklists that you've created. So if we're not yet working with that client's accountant, they could take the checklists and take it to the accountant. Better would be they introduce us to the accountant along with the advisor member. And so all of us are now kind of collaborating as a team. So I think you've developed some really nice additions to this process in the last few months, Tim.
Yeah, no, you're right. A minimum is 4 strategies.
Wow.
Sometimes we get up to 6 and 7 strategies, right? We want it to be digestible. We don't want to be too overwhelming. We're realistic that there's only so much we could do in a year. And now is a great time to start early because then you have more time to implement more strategies, get all the documentation aligned. But you're right, we do have checklists and you know, different education of the rules. I kind of simplify the tax rules and we provide all that, whether we need to educate the CPA or tax accountant how to utilize, to implement the strategy, or just for the clients, self-learning.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. And then maybe quickly talk through, because I know it's really important from our perspective to make sure we understand the client's tax risk mindset.
Yeah, sure. So we do have a tax risk framework, and we do have 5 different levels of the framework. So we want to align on 2 fronts, right? So we created this tax risk framework. This is different levels of risk for the strategies. So each strategy that we have in the VFO has a tax risk rating. This is created in-house, so it could be subjective, right? Our team created this. You could either agree or disagree, but all the tax strategies we have on platform align to the tax code. The reason why we have the different levels, because some require more involvement from the client, from the accountant, more documentation, more rules that you have to meet. Some strategies have, hit multiple layers of the tax code where we're dealing with up to 5 different pieces of the tax code. Some have tax code and SEC regulations involved. So that's how we, assign the risk rating depending on that specific feature of the strategy. But, quickly to, talk about the different levels as, number one is very conservative. These are very simple, safe strategies, very easy to implement and audit. If it were to occur, the IRS would pretty much request, basic paperwork. Two is moderately conservative. Again, very straightforward strategy. There will be more eligibility rules that will need to be confirmed and documented. And if an audit were to occur, it would mainly focus on checking math and making sure qualifications are met. Three is average risk, more moving parts, still within the IRS rules, but it would require a higher level of attention to detail than your risk level two strategy. An audit, if it were to occur, would mainly examine substance, structure, and any valuations involved. Four is moderately aggressive. These are moderately complex strategies that require careful coordination. Audit, if it were to occur, would focus on intent pricing and a higher level of supporting documentation. And five is very aggressive. These are highly complex strategies. They do require disclosure to the IRS because typically they would be a listed transaction. So there would be a higher level of compliance of this. And an audit, if it were to occur, would be a deep dive in intent pricing and documentation. So in closing, we want each of our strategies to align, to have a risk rating, and then we want the individual client, their tax risk mindset to align to the strategies. We want to make sure their risk levels align to the proper strategies.
Very good, my friend. Very good. And if anybody listening hasn't had a chance to work with Tim yet, not only does he have an incredible background in CPA, MBA, PSF, MBT, and he also has a deep passion around tax planning and what he does. So if you get a chance to work with him, you'll realize it's actually pretty fun. All right, so how do we get started for those of you who haven't worked with the VFO tax planning process in the past but would like to explore it? We created a landing page, which I'll show you momentarily, that will lead to a tax planning form that you'll want to complete. And then there is a $500 payment that is due in order for us to work with the tax planning process. Now, if we review the tax returns of a client, we determine we're not able to save them a significant amount, we'll just refund the 500. But assuming we actually move forward with building the tax plan, that's what that $500 fee will in essence cover. So here is the first landing page. We will post this in the chat below this video, but it walks through and it's designed to be client facing. So it walks through what is the virtual family office tax planning process. The 5 steps gives a little bit more detail of what Tim walked through verbally with you. So it talks about the 5 steps: discovery, review, the ROI meeting, the educate, and the implement. Talk a little bit about a virtual family office, and then we go start the process. That will lead to the VFO tax planning form. This form can be completed either by the advisor or accountant or with the client. You have a little option here on the top left. It's going to get some information about their tax liability, what kind of taxes we're looking to save, what their risk mindset is, how fast or slow they'd like to move through the process. And then once you hit submit on that, it will lead to this $500 payment page. Now, from our experience, almost everyone that I can think of, it was the advisor or the accountant that paid the 500 for the client. Okay, so that's been what we've been accustomed to seeing. Doesn't mean that it has to be that. You could ask your client to pay it. But again, the statistics that I shared earlier, my opinion is it's definitely worth you covering the cost, at least to get going on a few. And then we also created this downloadable 2-page document. So it's a nice kind of leave behind or something you could email to a client. And it again walks through the 5 steps that I highlighted earlier, talks about the planning. And then on the last page, it's designed to be customized. So it'll be your information on here. So if you have the software or the team to go ahead and edit it, of course you can. If you want our team to do that, our marketing team would be more than happy to customize this for you. So I'll paste a link in the video posts that we make and you'll have access to everything here. Anything else that I haven't shared, Jenna or Tim, on the VFO tax planning process?
Yeah, I do believe we have a new tax planning checklist as well, that we just created. So we can share that as well. So you have it. This way you can send it out as well. But goal is to give you everything that you need to make this super easy for a client to understand the process. And of course, getting access to Tim only makes the deal even sweeter because, as Anton said, very passionate, but also a ton of experience, so much credibility. And yeah, it's just exciting that now everyone gets access. So it's very exciting. Yes.
Thanks again for being here, Tim. Any final comments from you before we wrap?
Um, not really a comment, just I'm excited to, work with more advisors and help more clients. So at the end of the day, that's what we want to do is help the retail client and, help support the advisors and the accountants to achieve that. So we're here to help.
Great stuff, man. Appreciate that. All right, Jenna, land the plane.
All right. Well, if your biggest takeaway of 2025 was working with Tim, let us know. Share it because it's the last week that you can put in the school community your biggest takeaway of 2025. Again, anything that you put in school, you'll be entered for a chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card. One person will win that. Five people will win a $50 Amazon gift card. And as we've mentioned on the news previously, these takeaways are not just for me and Anton to take a look at and high five over. It's so meaningful to us, of course, but it's also super meaningful to the community to let people know how you're sharing wins or even just a mindset shift. If it's something that we've helped with or that someone in the community has helped with, we just would love to hear it. So again, it's running through the end of this week, and then we'll announce the winner next week. So appreciate everyone who's already submitted. We've had a great time looking through them, but that is all I've got for episode 24 there. Anton, anything else from you, sir?
Not from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Look
again,
forward to hearing
Tim.
any
And
feedback you have. Thanks, Tim,
yep,
for being
see you
here.
next time.
See
Thanks,
you. Thank you.
everybody.